Today I'm going to talk a bit more the western part of Singapore because in the last month, right, since the 18th, right, which was one big event, right, that happened in the world. Another big event actually happened in the western part of Singapore, and that was actually the western part MRT line broke down, right? I think a lot of us were affected by it now. But just one of the interesting thing that I wanted to think about was that is it really such a surprise that the MRT trains on this line actually broke down? So I actually did a bit of a study on this, and I noticed that for the Western line, it does not just pass through one or two, but seven very highly densely populated HDB estates. So what does that mean? It means that the MRT trains must need to carry more people. The MRT stations need to have a higher frequency of trains, right, to manage the population that's moving around. And also they need to operate in a longer period of time in the day. So, the technicians, the engineers have much lesser time in the day to do maintenance. So, but the thing is this, you may be asking me, but what does the MRT line breakdown has anything to do with property, right? And what does it do with real estate? Okay, the connection came when my client who stays at Clementi Canopy, he gave me a call during this time. He called me to complain, his children had to wake up earlier to go to school, right? And also went on to ramble, right? Wow, nowadays you go to Clementi Mall, very crowded, more crowded than when he first moved into Clementi Canopy. The very interesting thing that happened was that he told me, "Hey Bernard, I want to move house because when I bought into the condominium, right, I wanted a lifestyle. So staying in a very crowded, congested neighborhood is not what I bought in for. Right? However, Bernard, I like the benefits of Clementi Canopy. So is there anywhere in the West Singapore which has these benefits but don't have the crowd one?" So to understand what are the actual conveniences that Clementi Canopy have, we look at 7 years ago when I helped him to get his place at Clementi Canopy. So back then he came to me, he was asking me, I need a place for my family. However, these are my criteria. I need to be near MRT, near supermarket, near shopping mall, very near good school, and also near highway. Why? Because to him, he works in the CBD. So he needs to access the highway, then quickly he can go down to Tanjong Pagar where he works. So back then, after going through a lot of shortlisting for him, I recommended him the Clementi Canopy back then. Now, 7 years ago, if you remember, Clementi Canopy was considered expensive for Clementi area at that time. So if you look at the initial launch transaction, about $1,342 per square feet. But why was it expensive? Because back then the winning bid from UOL for the break even was about 1,001. So based on just the launch day itself, UOL actually made a profit of 23%. Just on launch day, we don't talk about after launch, right? There's the price go up, right? As what we've seen on the other condos as well. Then the more and more profit margin they gain based on that. However, I mentioned two things to my client, which actually assured him that he was entering at a very safe price. So I told him that the piece of land at Clementi Avenue 1 previously was a old HDB block. Now, what happened was the government, they took back the land, bought back HDB on the SIRS, but they did not use back the land to build more HDB, but rather they actually sold the land to private developer to build a condo. So I asked him, why do you think the government did that? Is it because there's no demand for HDB in Clementi? I don't really think so, right? So there must be something that they knew. And this actually was confirmed also by the private developers. Because for Clementi Canopy, it got 6 bids. And then UO was highest bid for the place of land. So you notice that even the developers, they actually understand that there is a pent-up demand in the area. That's why 6 developers bid for the land. So that was the first thing I talked to him. The second thing I also mentioned to him was that for the Clementi Canopy, is the first of 3 parcels of land building private condo. So there was 2 others. And so what does it mean? There's something advantageous for him because of that. He has this thing called a first mover advantage. So what does it mean? It means that if he gets the condo first out of the 3 plots, when the second and third condos are developed, high chance it's going to be launched for sale at a higher price than what he has paid for initially, right, at the earlier launch. What really happened was that Claiborne, the second piece, started the launch about 1,006, 1,007, I think around there. And what happened was that his condominium at the Clementi Canopy, the price actually went up. So in fact, today, you can see the last few Clementi Canopy units, they already sold about 1,900 plus per square feet. And today, Claiborne, the second condo, already transacting up to 2,000. So you notice that the Clement canopy prices already caught up very close to Claiborne. And I personally believe there's still room to move up because the third piece of land, which is called the Alta, the new condo coming up, right? It's only launching for sale next year, right? So there's still some room to improve. So when he told me, oh wow, he wanted to sell and want to buy somewhere else, I was thinking, wow, quite quite a waste, because he's basically leaving money on the table. But of course, what we can see from my client is that he actually values his lifestyle more than, say, capital appreciation, right? And so as I was pondering, yeah, so to say about this, so I was pondering about what to look for him. Another event actually happened during the last month, on the 1st October, right? So what happened was officially the Bukit Timah market closed down for redevelopment, right, into this thing called the Bukit Timah Integrated Development. So this is actually very similar to what you would have seen in Tampines 1 or the latest Bukit Canberra, right? So where they actually had a lot of community services in one building. So for this Bukit Timah Integrated Development, it's going to have like elderly care center, a community club, or indoor sports facilities. Of course, the hawker center and the food and the market will be coming back, right? But more interestingly, this development is directly linked to the MRT, Beauty World MRT station, and also the new bus interchange that's across the road is coming up, right? And so as this event happened, right, I also took a closer look at the downtown line, right, which is where Beauty World is. Hey, then I noticed, hey, this line only served one HDB estate, which is at Bukit Panjang. And the rest of the train stations predominantly serve a private residence neighborhood. So this actually is a possibility where you can have a condo where you don't have the crowds because it doesn't go through a lot, only one, right? Densely populated HDB estate, right? But of course, if you look at it, then what is available today on this downtown line that can meet my client's criteria, like 5 things, right? Okay. So after doing a bit of study on the downtown line, I came up with 3 options, right? Okay, but before I go into that, for us, when we assess a condo, to see whether it makes sense to even be considered, we have this 25-star grading system, right? We look at different factors to gauge the advantage and the disadvantage of the condo. So in general, if let's say we calculate out and then we say that, hey, it has 12 stars or more, is a condo that's worth considering. So this is a system that we use. Okay, so the first one that I actually recommended my client was 8 MBT. Okay, so this development, we actually graded it at 15 stars. Okay, so why 15? Okay, we look at the location of AFBT. It actually meets actually all the criteria of my client, right? Firstly, it's only about 3 minutes walk to MRT, near MRT. 3 minutes drive to PIE, like he wants to be near highway. Near good schools, which is popular schools, right? Pei Hwa Methodist Girls School. Also is near to supermarket, right? And also to the shopping mall, right? There's going to be a new shopping mall just across the street that's being built. Or he can just walk down to this place called Beauty World Center. There's a Giant. Or he goes the other side, Bukit Timah Plaza, there's a fair price, right? But more importantly, this area still has a bit of a potential for appreciation because of course, the integrated development. But also this new thing that's coming up called the Bukit Timah Rochor Green Corridor. So if for all of us will remember, right, there's this very big drain, right, from upper Bukit Timah all the way to Rochor, right, but it's to actually ease the flooding that is very common along Bukit Timah. Right? So what the authorities are doing is they're going to build a sort of like a garden on top, right? And there's a corridor that leads all the way to Rochor. So it's again, it's going to be more greenery and another amenity that comes out for residents to use. Okay. But of course, in anything, when we do our assessment for clients, we actually consider whether is it competitive, right? So just now, we also, like someone mentioned in chat, we need to see the neighborhood surrounding. Is it comparable, or is it really selling very high? Okay. So the average PSF for ABT is about $2,700 per square feet. Quantum wise is about 3 million for the 3-bedroom. Okay, so we did a comparison for the other two newer condos, like the Link, which is just next door, and also the Reserve Residences, which is just across the street, YBT. So we noticed that the average PSF actually already very close to the APT average PSF, right? And for Reserve Residences itself, which is already about 97% sold out, right? People already accepted the price of the average, which is about 3.2 million for 3 bedroom. So ABT 3.1 million is within that range. So I would say that is a relatively accepted price for this neighborhood already, right? But of course, you may say, hey, Bernard, wow, $2,700 per square feet there. Sounds quite expensive, right? Wow, yeah, but it's true, right? This amount of money, right? You can actually go down to Newton, you can buy a freehold condo, right? Like I mentioned when I'm jumping. Or you can even go and buy another freehold condo at the east side, not the continuum, right? Both the 3 bedrooms about 2.3, right? But does it mean that freehold means that it is valuable? Okay, so over our years of experience, right, working with a lot of clients, actually what we notice is that what is really valuable to a buyer, actually it depends on their objectives, right? So for example, if your objective today is say, oh, I want to buy a house because I want to plan for legacy plan, I want to pass it on to my second or third generation. Then I would say, hey, yes, freehold is a makes sense, right? Because you need to have something with that kind of longevity, right? But however, for my client's case, right, he values convenience, right? And also he values staying in the West much more than this freehold. That's why for this, I do not really recommend to him, right? Okay. Okay, the second one that I recommend to him was this development called the Mist. Now, the reason why I actually recommend this to him, right, I'll share with you is this concept, what you call as property swapping. So I'll explain a bit further. Now, for the Mist, we actually graded it at 16 stars, which is a bit slightly better in fact than A and BT, right? And if you look closely at the Mist, it actually does fulfill most, I would say, of the criteria for my client. Of course, in terms of the shopping mall, it's about 10 minutes walk to Hillian, Bukit Panjang Plaza. To the MRT, if you catch you, is about 6, 7, 8 minutes walk. Of course, the only thing that maybe a bit consider is the drive to the BKE. It's a bit further, but it's still for about 5 minutes. Of course, in terms of popular schools, it's not as close to really good popular schools that we all know about, like those oversubscribed schools, right? But one of the interesting thing about the Mist is that this area, right? There's no other new condos coming up specifically along this property area, right? Unless one of the older condos go en bloc. So this is actually one of the newest condominium in this area after Hillian Mall, which is about 7 years old. Okay. Now, so coming back to the question of what do you mean by property swapping? So why I selected this Mist for as a consideration is that when you look at the Mist average price, it's about 2,001 per square feet. If you remember earlier, right, the Clement canopy, the prices average is about 1,900 already. So what it means is that it is possible, so for my client, if he sells his Clement canopy, he can use the same amount, almost the same amount, to buy a unit at the Mist, right? Without coming out with much more money from his pocket just to move house. So this is something that sometimes when we do our advisory work, we also look into this consideration to help our clients. Right? At the end of the day, when we move the house, if we can help them save money, we help them save as much as possible. So this is one option, but they have to come up more from pocket. Right. And as we also compare the Mist competitiveness to the other newer condos, we'll notice that for Hillian Mall, for Hillian Residences, the 3 bedroom is already selling about 2 mil. So it's about more or less about the same price as the Mist. But more interestingly is that I actually looked at this development called the Bottoming at Dairy Farm. So this development is actually much more inward away from the MRT than consider the Mist. The walk, I think, is about 10 to 12 minutes. The condo already almost fully sold. I think only left 3 to 4 units left. And so people have already accepted a price of about 2.1 million at about $2,000 per square feet already for that area, right, which is further away from train and more also MRT, for MRT station. So I will feel that the miss at this price actually is okay, right, very in line, right. Some more is nearer to more first amenities itself. Okay. Okay, so then of course, you also look at competitiveness, right? At $2,100 per square feet, what else can we buy in Singapore? Okay. So there are two that I found out after doing some research, right? One is at Noble Grand, which is all the way at Woodlands South, right? And then of course the other one is the Shorefront, which is all the way at Loyang. Now, what I noticed was this, right? The ends of Singapore already starting to transact about 2,000 per square feet already. So does it mean that these areas are expensive, right? Because they are selling at 2,000? Or does it mean that this is cheap? Because this is selling at 2,000, right? This is a very interesting question, right? Because definitely the distance from the Mist to the CBD is definitely much nearer than North Grand or the Shorefront. Okay. So but you say, hey, North Grand is expensive. But recently, because it's launching for balloting, in fact, actually balloted already. Today, they're going to be booking this weekend. But at the preview, over weekend, over 3,700 families went to Novel Grand Show Flat to visit and look at development. So you say that it's expensive, but then why so many people want to see? Right? There must be certain value at Novel Grand that attracted people. So coming back, right, as we mentioned, right, many times when we look at what is valuable, it's really have to look at we have to see from the perspective of the buyer, and we have to really align with them to be able to actually recommend something that's really what they want, right? So eventually, of course, for me, I showed my client these two options, right? There's cost and price, but for him, when he saw this, I think he was happier because wow, the miss so much nearer, and it's a this price. I think it's a good deal, right? Because his value is that he wants it to be a west market. Okay. Correct. Of course, the third one that I showed him, right, was of course usually based on our advisory work, right, other than showing him what he wants, we also would throw in what we call the bargain, right? Why we do that is because sometimes, although our clients have criteria, right, but when the bargain comes, maybe they can forego some just to take advantage of discounts, right, and cheap prices, right? So one of the ones that I picked up was this development called Pine Tree Hill. Okay, so Pine Tree Hill, when we graded it, it was about 16 stars. Okay, and why 16? First, of course, it was 1 km to the well-known schools, Henry Park, like one of the top schools. Also, another one was Pei Tong. Okay. In terms of amenities wise, in terms of shopping, is not as good, but because the nearest is Jelita Shopping Center, which is on Cold Storage. The other nearest place you can retail is actually at Sunset Way. So some of those HDB shops, restaurant. The nearest one is Holland Village, which is quite a drive, about 2 kilometer drive. Now, and of course, there's no MRT conveniently located there. Drive to, and also to High Expressway is a bit further. So these are the two things that didn't meet his criteria. Okay. But why I wanted to share this with him because it somewhat resembles his experience when he actually bought into Clementi Avenue 1. He was the first of the three. So in terms of Pine Tree Hill, right, it's the first of two, right? So there was these two pieces of land next to each other. Pine Tree Hill is the first to be launched. The second one coming out soon also. I think next month we launch it called Nava Grove. So you will see that there's a similarity, right? Taking advantage of the first mover for this region, right? And subsequently after that, there is no other new land, so to speak, unless the government decides to clear the Clementi Woods, right, to put more land. If not, the next condo is coming out would have to be en bloc from the older condos in the Pine Grove area. Okay, and we actually took a look. But so why is it competitive? And why I didn't introduce this to him is because when we looked at the break-even price, right, it's closely about 2,002 plus. Okay, and so I actually looked at it and said, wow, actually a UOL for Pine Tree Hill it's actually only selling an average of 10% margin only. Okay, so coming back, because he has experience with UOL at the Clement Canopy, right? Previously, when he bought at 1,003, UOL earned about 23% margin from him. But do they? For this one, you are only about 10%. So what does that mean? It means for this condo, UL is actually passing savings back to the consumer every time he sells a condo. So question is this, if today I'm able to find units for client that's less than 10%, was it a good deal? It's probably a bargain, right? So I actually looked through many of the units still available from Pine Tree Hill. And this is what I found out. Wow, because he's staying in a three-bedroom, right? So let's say, for example, he wants to do a property swap to a three-bedroom. Hey, there's actually a unit that's actually on the low floor at Pine Tree Hill. Actually selling only 3% margin. 3%. What 3%? So which means when developers sell him this, probably he don't make money because you have to factor in all the admin costs and all that, right? So he's probably not making a lot of money. So it's actually a very good deal, right? About 2.8, right? So just now we saw 1,000, 9,000. So yeah, so it's something that he can consider. But more importantly, because he's selling at a discount, he actually has this opportunity to really consider upgrading from a 3 to 4 bedroom, right? Because cheaper, right? So also found this for him, right? This 4 bedroom with private lift. He actually only going about 6% margin. So developer also earning a very little only, just for selling such a big unit to them. Okay. Of course, we also look very closely, right, at competitiveness of Pine Tree Hill around the surroundings. Now, what we notice is that for this PSF about average of 2004, 2005-ish, actually another condo nearby, which TOP last year, called the Place Park Suites, we recently also saw around this PSF, was on the floor, right? And around the area, the older condos, if you notice around the older condos, right, the three bedrooms are usually a bit bigger. So this area, and they have bigger units. But the quantum already is about 3.2, 2.8, 2.7. So Pine Tree Hill average three-bedroom unit, about 3 mil. Yeah, it's more or less in line. So for the homeowners here, they already accepted the 3 mil price tag, so to speak, for a house in this area. And what I noticed interestingly is that because of this 2004, over the last 1 month, okay, I wouldn't say it's definitely because of interest rate drop, but I would say that it has something to do with it. Over the last 1 month, about 100 units was sold at Pine Tree Hill already. Right, so I also told my client, hey, well, over 100 units sold already. So whatever is there, maybe developer going to increase price really. But it cannot be keeping low price forever, right? Because it's not his practice. Okay. Okay. So in all and all, right, what am I trying to say for the story for my client? Is that it's actually possible to find your dream home, right? You just need to ask. So we have a lot of experience, right, when we speak to potential homeowners or newlyweds. A lot of them will think, wow, Singapore, because property is a big purchase. So a lot of them will think, wow, Bernard, wow, buying house very expensive in Singapore. I think I won't be able to find that dream home of mine. Okay? And then so they give up, right? They actually settle for less. But what we found out was through our advisory work and talking to a lot of clients is that actually it's doable. But what we all need to do is actually to, of course, plan well, plan ahead, and also to really execute the plan. Don't deviate from it. But then it's possible. So let's say, for example, if for yourself, you today, you are planning, hey, maybe I am a certain status in my work. I want to really pursue my dream home now. Be able to help you to plan something to reach your dream home. Yeah, right? So it's when it lost.